image that killed the Democrats, or at least any chance they have in 2026 and maybe 2028. We're going to talk about that. Hey, making stuff up on your passport. Guess what? It's okay if you do that. This system is so screwed up. And what exactly is Gen Z doing to beer? Welcome. It's the Jay Sheldon Show. That would be this guy. And welcome in. Happy Monday. Monday. Oh, my goodness. I hope your day's off to a great start. We are live on Rumble and we are live on X. Both platforms carry this show Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And we welcome you in. If you haven't followed our show yet, hit that follow button. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. If you don't have an account here on Rumble, make sure you get one. It's easy. It's also free. And you don't have to post videos. You just are able to follow people and like streams and things like that, just like this one. So be sure and hit the follow and the like button. We appreciate it. All right, wherever you may be across the USA or across the planet, because we do have a few viewers here and there in other areas around the world, we're going to tell you about all the stuff that's going on and everything that's happening, and it's a mess. Just like that, it is over for the Democrats in 2026 midterms. Maybe even the 2028 general. This may be the final nail in their coffin. Creaky, splintering, mentally ill, Marxist coffin. Right now, they're trying to ignore it. The way they tried to pretend Hunter Biden's laptop was non-existent back in 2020, remember? They were successful enough then to push their vote machine over the finish line in Biden-Harris's favor. Sadly enough, stolen as it was. But that isn't going to happen this time. This image is out there. And still, they are doing their damnedest to try and ignore it and hope it goes away, which is part of the reason I decided to lead with this thing today, because it ain't gonna go away. How many AP stories about this deadly attack? 0. PBS stories? 0. New York Times? 0. NPR? 0. Wall Street Journal? 0. BBC? 0. CNN? 0. And the Washington Post? You guessed it, 0. The only explanation I've seen anywhere is, oh, it wasn't covered nationally because it's a local story. Sure, like George Floyd's overdose in police custody was only a local story, right? Good luck with that. Now, in all fairness to Democrats, their policies have made this situation so common, it may very well have just disappeared into the smoke and fog. A violent, insane, lunatic, the scum of the earth, 14 previous arrests, but who still freely roamed the streets, randomly and viciously stabbed a young woman on the train and killed her. This murder occurred 2 weeks ago. And they have every reason to believe the local crime story was as dead as the beautiful young victim was, and she was a beautiful young victim. Then the video emerged. I am absolutely not going to play it. It is horrific. You really want to see that crap? You can find it. Chilling, terrifying horror every urban female, and in fact plenty of males, are in fear of. The still image of the moment the madman's knife begins its descent is the most damning optic I have seen in years. And frankly, this will become the image for the Democratic Party. Just even that still image, and there is video, which, like I said, not going to see it on this show. But just that image alone is enough to send absolute chills down your spine. It gets worse for Democrats. The victim was not only a young female, stunning, absolutely beautiful, but she was a refugee from the Ukraine. She ran from the war in Ukraine. She came here for safety. 23 years old. Irina Zarutska, butchered on a Charlotte light rail, her throat cut open by repeated violent stabbings from this offender who had been arrested, as we said, 14 times and was still free. Take a look at this absolutely beautiful woman, now dead because of someone who should never have been on the street in the first place. The New York Post, covering the story, haunting new video revealed the terrifying moment a homeless ex-con allegedly fatally stabbed. No, it's on video, pal. It's not alleged. You freaking did it. The surveillance footage, which was released on Friday by the Charlotte Area Transit System, shows Zarutska boarding the train in her pizzeria uniform at 9:46 p.m. and sitting looking at her phone, unaware of what was lurking behind her, this evil, evil man. Just 4 minutes later, 35-year-old scum of the earth DeCarlos Brown Jr. whips out a folding knife and lunges forward, stabbed her 3 times, at least once in the neck. Those eyes, that brave smile, her courageous backstory, fleeing war-torn Ukraine for a chance at freedom and safety, you'd think, here in America, taking a humble job as a pizza clerk in Charlotte, North Carolina. Laken Riley, the young nursing student, murdered by one of then-President Joe Biden's illegal aliens, became a poster child for stopping this invasion. The description of her murder shocked the public. Still, it was only words. Robin Westman's murder, the maiming of the young Catholic school kids at prayer, shocking, tragic story, powerful enough to finally spark public debate about what kind of medications are given to our youth with this gender dysphoria bullshit, and whether they're sane enough to own guns. Obviously, they should not. Still, all of these stories were only told in words on a page. Here, we have actual photos and videos of this savage attack committed by one of the Democrats' sacred cows, a black homeless man. You know, the kind of sweet, innocent victim those awful racist cops are always trying to murder. You know the kind. even as Democrats surge the streets of Washington, D.C., protesting the president's crackdowns on crime. This unbelievably chilling video and still image have hit the internet. The left could not be caught further out on the wrong side of this issue. They are exposed as the unbelievably horrific morons that they truly are. I have to admit, I occasionally worry about Trump's over-the-top rhetoric, willingness to push the bounds of his powers a lot further than even Obama did, and he did. I know he's doing the right thing, but every time he calls out the guard or sicks the FBI on somebody, blows up a boat of enemies, I can all too easily vision the next Democratic president going after people in the same way, only this time it'll be my ox. And then I see something like this. And I thank God, literally thank God, that this man in the White House, who has climbed above history, saying, stop, enough. Because in the end, Democrats are champions of mental illness, crime, a breakdown of our cities, our civil order. They champion evil. Republicans fight it. Period. End of discussion. It is over, Democrats. You are done. Stick a fork in you. Be gone. It is so important that you follow stories like this, you share stories like this on the internet. And again, remember, it is the Democrats who support putting these people back out on the street, which puts blood all over their hands, which they can never, ever wash off. Absolutely disgusting story, but one that needs to go out there and be talked about. Marilyn, or Danny, hello, good morning. Just heard about this story 20 minutes ago, looking into it. Very sad, beyond very sad, scary, horrific, sad, of course. God, it's just, I'm at wit's end, pal. I don't know what to tell you. There is a dirty little secret in the mobile phone industry. You want to know what it is? The major carriers don't want you to know about it. You know the big three own all the towers? Every single one of them. If that's the case, then what's the difference between the carriers? There's only one that actually lives by and runs their business by the same values that you and I have, and that is Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile. America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, and the only one that allows you access to all three networks. Keep your phone number, and now keep your values too. With Patriot Mobile, you'll know that none of your money is going to the woke left, the DEI, or causes that put America last. If you're worried about switching, don't. It could not be easier. I'm serious, folks. This is such a simple process. Likely, a bunch of you are going to save some money, too, on your monthly bills. They have a 100% U.S.-based customer service team, and they are there to help make switching easy. You'll get the same service without compromising quality or convenience. Now, how do you get it? Well, that's easy. You go to patriotmobile.com/J, patriotmobile.com/J, and if you use that link and sign up, you get a month free. Yep, I am going to pay your first month's bill at Patriot Mobile if you use our link to sign up. Do not be fooled by other providers who pretend to share your values. They don't. Support one that actively supports the First and Second Amendment, the right to life, our brave veterans, our first responders. Patriot Mobile, make the switch today, patriotmobile.com/J, and your first month is free when you get signed up. Thank you, Patriot Mobile, for partnering with the show. We appreciate it. We're very proud to have you as a part of the team here. Justice Barrett, what the hell's going on with you? Supreme Court Justice Barrett defends the Dobbs decision. She says that judges should tune out of critics like Hillary Clinton. Well, good on you, Justice Barrett. Phew. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett defended the 2022 Dobbs decision that overturned Roe v. Wade, saying it was a states' rights issue that should be properly left to the democratic process. Makes sense. During this interview, which was on CBS's Face the Nation Sunday, Barrett also said the justices need to tune out the noise from critics like former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. CBS released excerpts from this interview on Thursday.
Welcome back to The Takeout. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett told CBS News that the Supreme Court should not, quote, be imposing its own values on the American people. This is her first television interview since joining the High Court in 2020. It's ahead of the release of her new book, Listening to the Law, Reflections on the Court and Constitution. Here is some of Barrett's conversation with our own Norah O'Donnell.
You wrote in the book, the court has held that the rights to marry, engage in sexual intimacy, use birth control, and raise children are fundamental, but the rights to do business, commit suicide, and obtain abortion are not.
Right. I'm describing the doctrine. I was a con law professor for many years. Yes, I described the doctrine in the book, and that is the state of the law, which I described in the book because I want people to understand it. I want Americans to understand the law and that it's not just an opinion poll about whether the Supreme Court thinks something is good or whether the Supreme Court thinks something is bad. Mm-hmm. You know, what the court is trying to do is see what the American people have decided. And sometimes the American people have expressed themselves in the Constitution itself, which is our fundamental law, sometimes in statutes. But the court should not be imposing its own values on the American people. Mm-hmm. That's for the democratic process.
O'Donnell asked Barrett about the criticism from folks like Clinton. People say a lot of different things, the justice retorted. So when Hillary Clinton, for example, says, what's next? She said, my prediction is the court will do to gay marriage what they did to abortion. This is Clinton. Barrett responded by saying, I think people who criticize the court, who are outside, say a lot of different things. But again, the point I make in the book is that we have to tune those things out. When it comes to the role of judges, Barrett wrote, like Americans, more generally, judges hold diverse views about the values by which a just society should live. Yet, under the Constitution, the choice between these competing views is made by citizens in the democratic process, not by judges settling disputes. Now, I can guarantee you one thing. You watch the liberal heads explode. And I love it. Good. Go Amy Coney Barrett. Do you have a passport? I've had 3 of them, I think. I mean, I no, not that. I've renewed my passport 3 times. Anyway, an appeals court, and you know when I start with saying an appeals court, it's going to be something as effed up as you can possibly imagine. Well, they have now ruled that you can make stuff up on your passport. Yeah, not kidding. There have been so many rulings by district courts aimed at slowing down Donald Trump's agenda or screwing it up one way or the other. You might have missed this one. It came down last Thursday. A 3-panel judge in Boston, the U.S. First Circuit Court of Appeals, basically ruled you can make stuff up on your passport. Federal Appeals Court Thursday declined to allow U.S. President Trump's admin to refuse to issue passports to transgender and non-binary Americans that reflect their gender identities. A 3-judge panel from the Boston-based Court of Appeals declined to put on hold an injunction issued by a trial judge which bars the U.S. State Department from enforcing a policy it adopted at Trump's direction. The original ruling came down in April, expanded in June. You guessed it, Biden-appointed judge. Federal judge blocked the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, from requiring people to use their actual biological sex on their passports. So basically, our judicial system has become a total freaking joke. This activist judge says we need to be able to include gender X as a passport option. Now, Trump noticed something rather obvious. A person is almost always born a male or a female. He signed this executive order called Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the federal government. That was on his first day back in office in January 20th. Across the country, ideologues who deny the biological reality that there are boys and girls only have increasingly used legal, social coercion to permit men to self-identify as women and vice versa, access to single-sex spaces, activities designed for women, women's domestic abuse shelters permitted to allow men entry. Efforts to get rid of this biological reality of sex, fundamentally attacking women from depriving them of their dignity, safety, well-being. The erasure of sex in language, in policy, has a very corrosive impact, not just on women, but honestly on the validity of the entire American system. Basing federal policy on truth is critical to scientific inquiry, public safety, morale, and in fact trust in the government itself. And yet, according to this appeals court, feel free to lie on your passport. You want to put an X down. Oh, man. Can we get some good news, please? Oh, yes, we can. Still not tired of winning? Love this headline. ICE deports child abusers. Goodbye. Begone with you. I'm liking that word a lot, begone. In the latest episode, in the ongoing epic ICE and DHS deports another goblin we don't want here, 2 accused child abusers have been apprehended and repatriated, which is a fancy word for we kicked their asses out. They can go face whatever music their home countries decide to dish out on them. Hopefully it'll be something, considering the nature of their offenses. We presume the consequences will be, shall we say, severe. ICE deported a Mexican illegal immigrant wanted for aggravated rape against an underage family member. Omar Alberto Almodovar Mondragon, 29. Outstanding arrest warrant from Sinaloa, Mexico. U.S. immigration officials handed him over to Mexican authorities at the port of entry in Nogales, Arizona. There is no way our society, and no place in our society, for these vile child predators, ICE Enforcement Field Office Director John Cantu said in a statement. We will continue our congressionally mandated mission to preserve public safety, national security, and keep dangerous aliens out of our community. You'll note this goblin is accused of not just attacking a child, he's accused of attacking an underage family member. That's how extra disgusting this scum is. And this is the kind of people the left wants to encourage to keep here in the U.S. Really? That's the hill you're going to die on? Second one, sent back to Jamaica. Albert George Davis, 59, removed from the U.S., sent to Jamaica, turned him over to authorities who sought his arrest for the rape of a child in 2020. Albert George Davis fled to Connecticut in an apparent attempt to avoid prosecution for the disturbing victimization of a child in Jamaica. This goblin also would likely have been protected by the leftist pro-illegal immigration agitators. Some satisfaction that both of these, I won't use the term men, I don't think either qualifies to be addressed by that. So let's just stick with goblins. Both of these goblins were handed directly over to the relevant authorities in Mexico and in Jamaica, presumably going to face the due process that applies in each of those countries. If convicted from what we know of Mexican and Jamaican penal system, we can assume the consequences will be very, very, very unpleasant. Which is good. They are, after all, being punished as they should. This is what we voted for. The number of illegals who've already been kicked out, sent to third-party nations, self-deported, may well be over 1.5 million. This bust of around 450 illegals, we talked about that Friday. One place, a construction site for an EV battery plant in Georgia. The left predictably complaining about all this. Take note, once again, this is a matter of law. These people were here illegally. And the law says they get sent back. End of discussion. Goodbye. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Oh, man. Hey, America, we got a problem. You guys just aren't doing it enough. I will tell you about that in just a minute. But right now, I want to tell you about this. You know what that is? That is a cup of Blackout coffee. The most amazing coffee on the planet, and a coffee made by a company that supports our values. We only have sponsors on this show who support our values, if you haven't noticed, like Patriot Mobile, Blackout Coffee. Be awake, not woke, folks. Blackout Coffee is an all-American company. They work with local co-ops and American farmers to grow the best beans in the best soil, best weather conditions, best altitude. And then they select only the premium beans, which is about the top 20%. You would think with all this, the circle getting smaller and smaller, these beans would be, $1 billion a bag. They're not. They are extremely reasonably priced. Not kidding. Check it out on the website. Use that link in our show notes. Blackout Coffee has all kinds of roasts. Pick your favorite. Mine is pitch black espresso. I love it. Huge, full-bodied coffee flavor, very strong, but never, ever, ever, ever bitter. Blackout Coffee has an enormous amount of flavored coffees, each one more delicious than the next. Blueberry crumble, one of my favorites. They also have instant coffees. They've got pods, cold brew coffees. Check them out. Blackout Coffee. Use that link in our show notes. And when you use the code J20, I want to make sure that is the code. JAY20, J20, you will get 20% off your first order. 20% off your first order at Blackout Coffee. Use the link in our show notes and the code J20 at checkout. 20% off your first order. I've made the challenge before. I'll do it again. Pick up a bag. Just pick up a bag. And by the way, if you it's beans, and I'm going to have to grind them, no problem. They now have on several of their roasts the ability to order them roasted and ground. So you've got that. No more excuses. Use the link in our show notes for Blackout Coffee and use the code J20 and get yourself 20% off. All right. Thank you, Blackout Coffee, for being a part of the shoe. You guys, get it in gear, would you? Look at this headline. U.S. population set to decline in 2025, this year, for the first time ever. Come on, folks. Try harder. Since this republic was found, the nation's population has grown every single year. There have been dips, spikes in the rate of growth, but due to birth and immigration, the population has always gone up. I'm one of the products of those spikes, being a semi-boomer. A lot of the increase during this auto-pen Joe Biden era was, of course, because of illegal immigration. A lot of those illegal aliens are leaving voluntarily or otherwise, if you know what I mean. Now, this, along with a general decline in birth rates, could make this year the first time in our nation's history in which the population has declined. Ouch! U.S. could see its population shrink for the first time ever. Immigration numbers and birth rates have both plummeted. Even during the American Civil War, 700,000 Americans were killed. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. population has always increased every year. It might not have been significant, but it increased. Good chance it ain't going to happen this time. So, I suggest that you keep watching this show until the end, and then you turn off your internet, turn off your phone, and go help solve this problem. Okay? There is a liberal line about America being a proposition. Well, it ain't. And this liberal line, we have got to do something to stop it. America is a people and a nation. It's not an idea. The hard truth is, not everybody can become an American. Seriously, you ought to be proud if you were born an American, of course. But if you've naturalized yourself as a citizen, then you have a reason to be extra proud. A recent NatCon conference, Washington, Senator Schmidt, Missouri, delivered a very powerful speech about American identity, arguing that our country is not merely an abstract proposition about human equality and rights, but a distinct people with a shared past and a common future. He says, for decades, the mainstream consensus on the left and the right alike seemed to be that America itself was just an idea, a vehicle for global liberalism. We were told that the entire meaning of America boiled down to a few lines in a poem on the Statue of Liberty and 5 words about equality in the Declaration of Independence. Any other aspect of American identity was said to be illegitimate, immoral, produced by the evil of our ancestors. The true meaning of America, they say, is liberalism, multiculturalism, and endless immigration. Well, Mr. Schmidt, not so. American principles, Schmidt argued, are not abstractions. They are living, breathing things, rooted in a people and embodied in a way of life that only in that context do they become real, which is absolutely correct. I love this guy. And those who would reduce America to some abstract proposition either don't understand or are completely misrepresenting our history and our heritage. Nearly everyone who argues that America is a proposition is wrong about what that proposition is and what it means. All men are created equal. Specifically, Christian claim, not a universal call to multiculturalism, mass immigration. It emerged as a political ideal from Christian Europe, arrived in America by way of the settlers, the pioneers, who came here specifically to establish a nation where they could practice their Christian faith as they saw fit. In other words, America is not some grab bag of Enlightenment tropes about free speech and equality. It's the product of Christian Europe. The ideals that animated our founders are universal in the same way the Christian faith is universal. God created all men equal. They all bear the same imago Dei, the image of God. And we are all his children. We're the only people who ever took that self-evident truth and used it as a foundation to forge a nation where the English colonists here in America. To speak in these terms, of course, the left's head are exploding. I can see them and hear them. Their little craniums popping off left and right. They see our Christian heritage as nothing more than a bunch of crimes and a legacy of oppression, ignoring the historical reality that Christian moral theology that provided the basis for the modern concept of human rights. No surprise then that Schmitt's speech upset all the usual suspects on the left. Obama bro Jon Favreau posting on X that all you have to do is skim the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, Gettysburg Address, or the monuments around Washington to see that America is just an idea. Our ancestors, he writes, were fighting for a proposition. They were fighting for an idea. They've told us that. They wrote it down. You effing morons. Oh, very nice. Now, had Favreau actually skimmed the Declaration before he posted that, he would have seen right there in the first line the counter argument to his ridiculous argument. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. The founders understood what we're doing was specific to the American people. Instituting a government on the basis of Christian doctrine, of imago Dei. They knew that in order to keep that form of government would require being very careful about whom you allowed to join the new American nation. And too many foreigners would threaten its very existence. John Jay wrote, "Providence has been pleased to give this one connected country to one united people, a people descended from the same ancestors, speaking the same language, professing the same religion, attached to the same principles of government, very similar in their manners and customs, and who, by their joint counsels, arms, and efforts, fighting side by side throughout a long, bloody war, have nobly established general liberty and independence." John Jay, in the Federalist number 2. What he's describing here is a nation's specific people bound together by a common culture, ethnicity, religion, not some abstract proposition or a set of ideas that anybody anywhere could assent to. Shared memories, experiences, customs, beliefs, that's what make up a nation. A nation that is not a proposition. And that you and I are both very proud to be a part of. Oh, Danny. My husband's been wanting to try again. This will be number 5 for me, but I'm nervous after AJ's story. As the kids grow up, I keep wanting to try. I have a problem. Well, bully to you for trying, and we wish you all the best. And I think I'm going to stop right there, because if I go any further, I'm going to say something stupid, and I don't want to do that. And speaking of something stupid, what in God's green earth is Gen Z doing to our beer? Now, summer's over in most of the country, but we've got these warm, pleasant days of late summer. Not much better than an ice-cold beer. All right, for that matter, there's not much better on a chilly, drizzly autumn day than an ice-cold beer. We boomers grew up in the halcyon days, cheap American lagers, best drunk ice cold, masked some of the gross taste. After a long hot day out in the sun, nothing quite like an icy cold can of good old American lager. In 1996, the writer experienced a new outlook on beer. Today's beer is an embarrassment of riches. There is beer for every taste. Lagers, Pilsners, IPAs, Hallerweisens, you name it. But there is one rule that should always apply. If you're going to adulterate a beer, then it's not a good beer. Gen Z apparently hasn't learned this yet. They are committing beer sacrilege on an astounding scale. From spiritless spirits to refusing to open up a bar tab, members of Gen Z are continuing to challenge alcohol traditions. And now the generations born between the late 1990s and mid-2000s is stirring up a bunch of debate by giving new meaning to the term cold brew. And that has nothing to do with coffee. Gen Z drinkers are generating buzz online for adding ice to their beer, a practice some say is refreshing. I have had ice in my beer before. It ain't bad, but if anything, crushed ice is pretty good. But no, not in a beer, please. For the love of all that's good, right, and decent. How about, what's next? Put salt and lime juice in your beer? A TikTok user poured a Modelo over ice and said, "This is the most refreshing way to drink a beer." And then she added lime juice and salt to her glass. Another young influencer taste tested Athletic Brewing's Lemon Radler, a non-alcoholic beer, and decided something was missing. So they added a cup of ice. Super refreshing, she says. For the love of Pete, kids these days, look, any beer you have to fiddle with is not good beer, okay? I know Corona is always served in a bottle with a lime wedge stuck in the top, but I'm really informed that the original purpose of that in Mexico was to keep the flies out of your beer. Blech. And besides, Corona tastes like river water anyway, so a lime or a lemon wedge could only possibly help. I'm talking about good beers. Amber Ale, great, exactly the way it is. Samuel Adams, respectable beer. You can find it anywhere. East of Ohio, you can get Yongling, a lager. So many good beers out there. But adding ice, salt, juice, no, it's wrong. Stop it. Don't do that, okay? God. In accordance with the iron law of beer drinkers, as it was brewed, so it should be drunk. Gen Z, keep your freaking hands off of our beer. You know, I've got some Carlsberg in the fridge that has been there for so long because I don't drink beer very often. I think it's actually expired. Danny was drinking Corona yesterday, including watching football. I actually like it. Back in the day, in my early 20s, I did too. It was a preference of mine. With the lime, I admit it, but I mean, come on. Beer is beer is beer. Not really the case. All right. One more to go before we get out of here, and it's a quick one. In case you were thinking, if you got pets in your life, a dog, a cat, fine. Some people choose birds. I have a dear friend of mine who had a cockatiel. It was relatively quiet until it wasn't. And then you get the reason why perhaps if you're ever thinking about getting a cockatiel, you might want to think again. And where's my mouse? Here we go. Here's why. Okay. There's only so much of that I can stand. I mean, it's funny as hell. But can you imagine that thing going off like that in the wrong circumstances? Or 3 o'clock in the morning when you're trying to sleep? Unbelievable. Oh yeah, and I love the scream at the end. Ah! Oh man. All right, my friends, that's gonna wrap things up for today. It's a Monday. Oh my goodness, it's a Monday already. Marilyn, welcome in. Didn't get a message on Facebook reposting the show. Throwing it out via the Rumble link, just FYI. Really? I thought I posted that. I'll have to back check. Anyway, Danny says that cockatiel looks like my boys this morning. All right. AJ, behave yourself. That's it. We're out of here. I will be back again tomorrow, same time, same station. Be sure and give us a follow, please, if you're new around these parts, on X or on Rumble or both. And enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow.